New, pretty harsh pushback in Israel this morning after Secretary of State Antony Blinken's call for a separate Palestinian state. Blinken explained this was key to ensuring regional support for Israel's security and Iran's isolation. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu pretty much flat out rejected that idea.
The state of Israel must control the security of all the land which is west of the Jordan River. That is a truth that I'm saying to our friends, the Americans, and have also blocked an attempt to force upon us a reality which will hurt the security of Israel. The Prime Minister in Israel must be able to say no, even to the closest of our friends.
That's Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu forcefully rejecting the Biden administration's push for a two-state solution following the end of this war, whenever that will be. The US is saying, however, that that is not the final word, citing that they've been able to change previous hardline positions from the Netanyahu government even during this war. The tense back and forth reflected what has become a wide rift between the two allies over the scope of Israel's war and its plans for the future of the beleaguered territory. We obviously see it different, White House National Security spokesperson John Kirby said. Netanyahu spoke just a day after US Secretary of State Antony Blinken said Israel would never have genuine security without a pathway toward Palestinian independence. Earlier this week, the White House announced that this was the right time for Israel to lower the intensity of its devastating military offensive in Gaza. In a nationally televised news conference, Netanyahu struck a defiant tone, repeatedly saying Israel would not halt its offensive until it realizes its goals of destroying Gaza's Hamas militant group and bringing home all remaining hostages held by Hamas. Saudi Arabia's foreign minister said the kingdom is ready to establish full relations with Israel as part of a larger political agreement. Quote, but that can only happen through peace for the Palestinians, through a Palestinian state, he said. More on the story in a minute, but I'd like to check in and get your initial thoughts, Cenk.
Yeah, so first on Netanyahu, I was led to believe that from the river to the sea was a genocidal phrase. In fact, I've condemned that phrase. I condemned it when Palestinians use it. I'm now going to condemn it when apparently the terrorist Netanyahu uses it, saying that he's going to do a genocide and ethnic cleansing from the river to the sea. That's my understanding of the phrase, from the river to the sea. You just heard it with your own eyes and your own ears. You heard him. Okay, and you saw him. So now it's not just him. Ben Gvir, the national security minister, says that they're going to drive the Gazans out. Now it all makes sense, actually. Why did they start in the north? What led them to believe that there was more Hamas in the north? And what I said on the first day, which is why wouldn't they just go to the south? They've got tunnels. They just go. So what's the point of destroying the south, north? You destroy the north first, you push them into the south. Now they're destroying the south. They haven't slowed down at all. Biden asked them to slow down. Biden's the weakest man in the world. We'll get to that in a second. So now their new plan is, drive them into the Sinai Desert. And now he's making it clear. And he says two-state solution, no way. And so there'll be no Palestinian state. That's not a partner for peace. That's not an ally. He says we get to say no. That's true. They're an independent country. They can say anything they like, right? We also get to say no. It's unconscionable to send them any money. $3.8 billion so that you could do genocide and ethnic cleansing? No, hell no. I mean, look, if they start driving them into the desert, I'm considering stopping paying taxes. I don't want my money going to ethnically cleanse people. What? Well, I thought we said never again. What is this? Total, utter monster, okay? It's unconscionable to send them any money. None, zero, zero, zero. But look at the pathetic Joe Biden. He's, we're still trying to convince him. What, but by asking pretty please? Is that your strategy? That's the strategy you use with Joe Manchin. Joe Manchin slapped him around like this. And now Netanyahu's slapping him around. Anybody can slap, I'll slap Biden around. You loser. You're at 33%. You're gonna lose to Trump too. Watch when he starts to slap you around. I don't want that to happen. But the guy's the weakest person in America. So what are you gonna do? He just told you, I'm not gonna do a goddamn thing you say. I'm not gonna do the two-state solution, and I'm gonna drive into the desert. Now what are you gonna do, Joe? And Joe's like, pretty please, pretty please. Shut up, do something, do something. Are you the president of the United States or are you not? This is ridiculous. So there's no defense for any of this, but we'll continue. We won't do anything. We won't do anything to oppose Netanyahu. I don't know what happens when they actually, I mean, look, the United Nations says the starvation has begun. 85% of Gazans are already displaced, homeless. And now 25% of them are starving. That's 500,000 people. So America has blood all over its hands. It's because of Joe Biden. It's because of all the politicians in Washington. But now 60 have sent a letter, 60 Democrats saying, oh, come on, Jesus, are we really gonna support the ethnic cleansing of the Palestinians led by Jamie Raskin and Ayanna Pressley? Bless their hearts, at least there's a pulse there, but the rest is unconscionable. Ramesh.
Yeah, thank you. I couldn't agree more with many of the things you just said there, Cenk, but I think, I mean, first and foremost, I just want to express how sort of powerless I feel outside of attending protests and sharing my voice about this disastrous situation and the sanctity and sacredness of all life, including our brothers and sisters in Gaza right now and our brothers and sisters in the West Bank who are also being terrorized through a settler colonial project that has existed for 80 plus years. I think the question is if you kind of look around the world at different countries, the vast majority of countries around the world, the vast majority of Americans, believe it or not, just the vast majority of all of us want this to end, want a ceasefire now. But if you look at how popular that opinion is versus who actually has the actual leverage to stop this, it's just one person. I mean, it's really just one administration from all I could glean, which is President Biden and our government. I mean, we are enabling and are complicit in this situation right now. And you can't say you want a two-state solution when you unconditionally back a genocide occurring to the poor Gazan people, and you're not doing anything about it. So actions speak louder than words, right? I mean, I'm not talking about, I totally understand the illegitimacy on certain levels of Hamas, but I'm wondering what a vision, I just want to ask that question, and Ben, I want to hear your thoughts on this. What is Biden's vision of a two-state solution? Like, what vision is there that any of us could have of a two-state solution when one part of the two states has been utterly destroyed, all its people increasingly are being displaced, and well over 10,000 children have been murdered, or killed, whether it's self-defense or not. I don't think it's self-defense, it's deeply disproportionate. So it's sort of like, if it's our country and our leadership that has the only leverage to end this, why is it that they're so insistent on continuing to unconditionally support this genocide, yet state they want a two-state vision? So it's sort of like I have to question whether they want a two-state vision, and if so, what would that look like?
I'd be happy to answer that. Please. There's so many things I disagree with that both of you said. Good. That I would love to address all of them. First of all, Ramesh, you just said you understand in certain ways the illegitimacy of Hamas. They're a terrorist organization that rapes people as a matter of public policy and as the way to resist and get the change they want. Rape and shoot nails into the vaginas of women and take women and babies and children hostages and still holds them hostage. So
sure, I'll respond to that.
Sure, so in some ways you see the illegitimacy. I would say in every damn way possible, you should see the illegitimacy. You both called it a genocide. It is not a genocide. The International Criminal Court will decide officially whether they think it is or not. It's a sham accusation. It's ridiculous because it is Israel defending itself. I got back yesterday from Israel. I was there for 10 days. During the 10 days that I was there were approximately 170 missiles launched at Israel. There were 9 on-the-ground terrorist attacks. There were Israelis murdered in the streets. While I was there were rockets that hit Tel Aviv near where I was. I didn't have to seek shelter because it wasn't the exact part of Tel Aviv I was in, but friends of mine did. If you are at the mercy of a terrorist organization.
At the mercy?
You mean the IDF as the terrorist organization?
No, I do not mean the IDF as a terrorist organization. The IDF is defending itself against this genocidal monsters, these genocidal monsters that are Hamas. And It's well documented, and everybody understands that it's an incredibly difficult situation with an incredibly unique set of circumstances of how densely populated it is, how monstrous Hamas is by using their own people as human shields, by putting all of. We're still using that because it's a fact, Cenk.
Fact.
What you're still using is genocide and ethnic cleansing, neither of which make any sense or hold the muster of fact.
It's absurd.
It is not ethnic cleansing because if you've ever been to Israel, have you been to Israel?
Why would I go to a barbarous country that imprisons 5 million Palestinians and never lets them go and brutalizes them, murders them at every turn?
If you've been
so why would I go to that country? Are you insane? No one go to Israel. You should never go to Israel until they end the occupation, and then we love them and we go back.
It's an incredible nation, and it's the only democracy in the Middle East that allied the Middle
democracy.
East. And you all the time use that as the example of why they should be held to a different standard than Hamas. You talk out of both sides of your mouth on this issue constantly. You say they're a democracy, so that's why they have to be held to a different standard. Then I call them a democracy, and you laugh mockingly at the only democracy that is our allies in that region. It's so ridiculous and egregious. And despite all of the evidence shown and all of the tactics that the IDF takes under the advisement of what it needs to do to try to attain its objectives militarily, it does a litany of things that no other nation does. It's an average of 2.5 civilians killed to military combatants compared to a typical ratio of other wars that is much higher compared to American wars that's 10-1, 12-1. Yet those numbers do not bother you. You say
what
that
do you mean they don't bother me? I did a decade of shows against that.
Those numbers don't affect your opinion of what's going on now, I meant to say. And you then also just make up that they're clearly trying to get the Gazan people into Egypt and displace them when that is not true. There have been some insane statements from some elements in the Israeli government that are not the official position of the government. That is not what the statement of Netanyahu
said from the river to the sea.
He said from the river to the sea they need to have control of their security. What are you talking about?
That's exactly what the Palestinians say. When we say from the river to the sea, they say it's political. But when it's a Muslim, genocide. You know they didn't actually do it. When it's Israel, when they're actually doing the genocide, no. From the river to the sea, as they're in the middle of the genocide, you think no big deal, no big deal.
That is such an ignorant statement. When the Palestinians say from the river to the sea, they literally are saying without Jews and Israelis living there and pushing them into the sea.
Because this monster is actually killing them, butchering them.
Because that's why you've condemned the statement.
You've got a theoretical statement on one side, and on the other side you're actually butchering.
So why did you condemn the statement? Because you know that's what it means. That's why you condemned it.
Then why don't you condemn Netanyahu, that monster who just said from the river to the sea?
Because he's not saying that they need to displace the Palestinians.
Here, Ben. You're the most biased man in America.
And I do condemn Netanyahu.
The Muslims can't say it. But the Israelis can say it all day long as they do it. They're murdering Palestinians as we speak.
They need to disavow a fundamentalist belief that wants to kill all Jews as a disease and not allow them to live. That might not bother you, but it does bother me as an Israeli Jew.
That's such a weak excuse. I'll tell you why.
Of my people,
yes, I'll tell you why.
Please.
Because you always hide, like as if Israel's a tiny little country.
It is.
And they're so defenseless.
Tiny little country.
They're so, oh my God, they can't do anything against the all-powerful Palestinians who they imprison and take away their water, power, electricity, murder them at all terms, etc. No. If someone was actually trying to kill the Jews, Ben, I would line up in the front line with you. Are you crazy?
They just did that on October 7th.
Exactly. So you go and
we talked about how I was there. They just killed a bunch of people.
So why don't you care about Palestinian lives, Ben?
Of course I do.
24,000 dead, 10,000 children.
Of course I do.
You don't care about them. You don't care about them at all.
Cenk, you can shout all you like, but you are the one condemning them to murder. So why don't you care about their lives?
Condemning them to murder?
You're condemning them to a never-ending cycle. Palestinians
is being made to kill them.
Palestinians, you are condemning Palestinians to murder. Because every time I suggest that you put any pressure or the world puts any pressure on Hamas to stop, you say they're terrorists. You can't ever tell them to stop. So you can only tell Israel to stop, which, as you know, for a goddamn fact, means that this war will end, Hamas will regroup, they will kill more Israelis, and Israel will kill more Palestinians. And that's what you want. That's what you're advocating for.
That's insane, Ben.
That's exactly what you're advocating for.
I want a two-state solution where you actually have peace.
So do I.
But not Netanyahu.
That's bull.
It's a monster.
That's a horrible statement he makes, and that should not be the position.
Terrorist, right?
But you add, no, not terrorist.
Of course he's a terrorist. He just said from the river to the sea, and he's actually doing it.
He said
he's
for 20
times the terrorist that Hamas
I will be with you if he actually encourages.
He's doing it, Ben. What more do you need? 48,000?
Not one person's been displaced out of Gaza. Not
Are you
one.
insane?
Out of Gaza, not one.
Out of Gaza,
not
sorry.
one.
It's squished into a little corner where they're being bombed.
That's what you're saying he's doing. Why doesn't Egypt allow any refugees? Why doesn't...
Because that's the displacement.
No,
voluntary
displacement, like happens in every war. At the beginning of
voluntary.
the
Did you just say that was a voluntary displacement?
What was? No, if the possibility of going into Egypt would be voluntary, like in the first month of the Ukraine-Russia war, 5.9 million people were allowed in, but for some reason, the Gazan people's neighbors, their fellow Muslims, don't allow them in. Not one person. They condemn them to death.
That's the ethnic cleansing when you drive them from their homes.
During war, temporary displacement.
One thing. So Ben, you and I agree that we have no support of, or we agree that the Netanyahu government is extremist and is disproportionately violent. Do you agree with that?
I agree they are extremists, and I agree they are not a partner for peace, and I do not agree they're disproportionately.
Okay,
I agree with that.
No, let's.
But proportion is not a standard used in war. You try to win a war. No, it's not.
It's what war crimes are all about. That.
No, it is not.
It's about appropriate. I'm curious how there can be a future with a government that has absolutely no interest in a two-state solution.
There needs to be an election. There can't be. There can't be.
And how can that future even come to be when both the U.S. is unconditionally backing and the Netanyahu government, because it has so much leverage, because we're not doing anything, is doubling down on its extremist policy.
Blinken is saying there needs to be two states.
He hasn't done anything.
Action. Show one piece of action.
One piece of action. They convinced Netanyahu's government to do a temporary ceasefire, to release Palestinian prisoners for hostages. Those were positions he was not into agreeing to, and they convinced him. Those are the things they convinced him to do. So you can yell all you want, Cenk, and you can sweat about it.
Netanyahu wasn't even going to do that deal where they released their own hostages.
That's my understanding. That's correct.
So Netanyahu is such a terrorist monster. He wasn't even going to release the Israeli hostages. We had to talk him into it.
No, he was not.
We had to talk him into releasing his own hostages, getting his hostages back. Congratulations to us. We convinced Israel to get their hostages back.
But we have to understand that people in Gaza are trapped there. They have no basic services, and they're just being attacked writ large. I understand.
So how do you suggest Hamas gets removed from power? What do you suggest?
I have an idea.
Hold on. Before I have no defense of Hamas, but I do want to understand in context how they came to be. We do know they were democratically elected. I'm not saying they're any. Yeah,
so then, do the people have any responsibility for that? If they're,
do the Israeli people have responsibility? Are you in favor of terrorism? Are you saying because Israel's a democracy, they're responsible for the terrorist Netanyahu and they should be attacked?
But most people in Hamas
civilians have no responsibility. Yes, I want them to vote the right way, both in Gaza and in Israel. But if you start saying the civilians have responsibility, you're saying terrorism is okay.
Every nation bears some degree of responsibility for its leaders.
But that's what Hamas says, Ben. Be careful.
Cenk and Ben, half the population in Gaza was not even born when these folks were elected.
Sure.
All they've known is a world of cages and deprivation.
And education that makes them want to kill Jews as well.
I don't know how much of this is education. Gaza is an open air prison, right? You wouldn't agree with that? No, I mean, it's blockaded. I mean, it was next to impossible in the times I've spent. I've been in the Sinai, so not in Israel, like full disclosure. But in the only way
you were invited in there many times.
Oh no, I was invited to Gaza.
Who cares about being there?
I've been
we can all read. We all have eyes.
I have no. It's not about that. It's about trying to understand the situation and condition within which Palestinians are living, and trying to just sort of have some compassion for that. I'm not calling. No, I'm not calling you anything. If you've noticed,
I appreciate it. Nor am I you, but I have tons of compassion for them. But I've been trying to explain forever these terms that get thrown around, despite as many times as you and I debate about this, Cenk, and you don't have an answer to this. Then the next time I'm on, you still say ethnic cleansing. It is not ethnic cleansing if the 2 million Arab Palestinians in Israel proper are treated with full rights. It is simply the existential threat coming from the government of the people in Gaza. If you can't separate that, you can't ever have an intelligent conversation about it that's going to ever evolve.
Okay, hold on. He's addressing me. So, Ben, look, we've yelled at each other. We've said nasty things about each other, including in this segment. But let's be clear, okay? So when you say that it's not ethnic cleansing to drive 85% of the people of Gaza out of their home, that sounds ludicrous. You might think it sounds fine, and Israeli supporters might think, oh yeah, I got 100 talking points, and it sounds great to us. But the rest of the world, I know you don't believe me, but the rest of the world goes, that's not ethnic cleansing? What the hell's ethnic cleansing?
Well,
if driving 85% of the people out of their homes, destroying 70% of the buildings,
punishment, right?
And now destroying the graves, which is the next story we're going to get to. So if that's not ethnic cleansing, I don't know what your definition of ethnic cleansing is.
It is while trying to remove Hamas, who you will admit fortifies itself in every bit of buildings. I was just there. I spoke off the record for over an hour to battalion commanders who explained that in 80% of homes they go into, there are weapons found, there are Hamas properties found there, tunnels under all kinds of homes.
Did you get to speak to Gazans who are suffering?
No, I wasn't able to get into Gaza.
Yeah, I know, because
I did go to the West Bank.
Because if you got into Gaza, they would have probably killed you too.
I did go to
those same battalion commanders would have killed you, just like they killed the Israeli hostages. And you're walking around in Gaza. Oh, oops! I accidentally killed 24,000 people.
Does that not prove the fact that they've also killed their own people? Does that not prove that it's just the incredibly dense facts of this area? They're not. If they're so able to intentionally
it proves the exact opposite. No, they're not even asking. They're not even asking, who are you? What are you a threat? No, just kill on. Oh, damn it! It was Israelis. We meant to murder Muslims. God damn it, we made a mistake.
I'm so happy for you that you've never been in war and never had to deal with the decision of in the moment trying to decide.
In the moment against shirtless guys, cowards, terrorists,
shirtless guys. They asked them to take their shirts off to make sure they didn't have
the Israeli
suicide belts on them.
The Israeli hostages, they had no shirts. They had a white flag, and the IDF murdered them because they thought, oh, good Muslims, let's kill them. And damn it, it was Jews. We didn't mean to kill you guys. We only meant to murder Muslims.
And I just visited wounded troops in a hospital in Israel, a hospital that is still treating Palestinians who are wounded as well, as they always do, because Israel actually acts with morality in what it does. And even when trying to take precautions going into areas, this young man was shot, two that I spoke with, shot in both legs while his commander was murdered, sitting there in a field when they're trying to go.
Murdered, he was a commander in the battle. He died in battle.
Right.
Okay, now is that terrorism too?
Being what?
Be killed in battle?
Is being killed in battle terrorism?
Like you're saying he was murdered, he was killed in battle, right?
Well, which terms are you going to use? Because you're calling it murder on one side, so I'm going to call it murder on the other side.
No, murder is civilians. When you murder civilians, right? Not when you kill soldiers.
Sure.
Okay, anyway, it's a small point, keep going.
Sure, so these people are trying to stop an existential threat that has continued forever. Do you think that only the Israeli people should suffer in fear forever?
No,
do you think? Why do you laugh at that? Why do you laugh at that? There were 9 terrorist attacks while I was there. That's okay with you to continue forever? So how does it stop? So how does it stop?
In a second, but Ramesh, you go, and then I got to tell her how it actually stops.
Look, I understand, and I understand where you're coming from, Ben. I mean, and I also don't claim to have the specific knowledge of being there, but I do think it's important we understand where Hamas came from and how these sets of actions are creating Hamases, more and more Hamases, so to speak, and the recognition that there has been a calculation made by the IDF and or the Israeli leadership that it's worth going after this densely populated area, killing now 24,000 plus people, 10,000
of which 9,000 are Hamas fighters.
Sure. So the calculation was
total idea of lie propaganda.
So you believe Hamas numbers? You believe terrorist numbers? But that's what you cite all the time. You cite it all the time.
Human rights
and they are using Hamas's numbers.
But either way,
according to you, no Hamas. You go like this to me during a debate.
No
Hamas has been killed. How many? None.
Guys.
I don't know. I trust the human rights groups.
The number is 9,000.
No, it's not.
So you accept numbers from the other side, yet you don't on the other side. And you also wait, hold on. Very important for the record. You also say the world agrees. The world does not agree. Jamie Raskin, who you just cited, who I had coffee with just 3 weeks ago, also, as I agree with what he's now putting up to make sure that Gazans do not get displaced, he also refused to sign a ceasefire now only agreement that didn't call for the release of hostages. And the entire European Union just passed a non-binding resolution 312 to 131. That's all they can pass Hamas is non-binding. It's not their country. To make sure that a permanent ceasefire happens only with the immediate unconditional release of all hostages and Hamas surrendering. So a big part of the world agrees the only way to end this cycle of violence is for Hamas to stop. Yet no one puts pressure. Nobody puts pressure on the terrorists, only on the people being attacked over and over and over again.
I just submit to you that the acts that the IDF have committed are also terrorist acts, and I also submit to you that there's been a calculation made that it's worth killing this many civilians to get this many Hamas members, whether it's your stats or Cenk's stats.
War is terrible, no doubt.
No. But the war could be stopped right now if Israel made a decision. But what does it mean? But what does it mean for Hamas to surrender? They're never going to surrender because they've been emboldened by all the things that Israel has done.
Their people are being killed and they have no chance to win. So why would they not surrender? Why would they not surrender?
And most countries in the world support a permanent ceasefire.
Guys, there's only
the release of hostages.
Exactly. That's what I support. That's what I support. But that's what I support.
Guys, let me give you the actual.
I'm fine with all that, except I don't think the Hamas surrender thing will ever happen.
Nonsense.
Like, what do we
they should be allowed to kill Israelis forever, and then Israel should be allowed to
let me say what the damn answer is.
All right, go ahead. Guys.
Okay. Look, guys, there's only one way that this ends. Number one, America has to put tremendous pressure on Israel. Take all the money away instantly. Number two, the Israeli people, I believe in their morality and their decency. Please, I'm begging you, Israeli people, okay? Vote Netanyahu and the right-wing government now. Put in Benny Gantz or whoever it is and go towards a two-state solution. So now how do you get the two-state solution so that Israel can be safe and can live in peace? The whole point of Israel was for the Jews to be safe because they've been slaughtered all across the world for time immemorial.
I agree with all that.
It was supposed to be a safe haven. Absolutely. So how do you do it? You get somebody, whether it's Benny Gantz or not, to go and work with the Palestinian Authority. The Palestinian Authority, at that point, putting pressure on Palestinians, not Hamas, because Hamas is never going to bend to pressure, but Palestinian Authority can. That is a reasonable way to go. You get the entire Arab world and America to put pressure on the Palestinian Authority to do a peace deal with the Israeli government. And that's the two-state solution. Then you take the Palestinian Authority and you put them in Gaza and say, hey, they just got you a state.
The problem is many Gazans don't respect the Palestinians.
I know, hold on.
Hamas will throw them off rooftops again like they did in 2007.
I agree.
Listen. No, Hamas, of course, is going to fight Palestinian Authority. That gives you a sense that maybe you could do a deal with the Palestinian Authority. And so will they try to throw them off rooftops? Of course, but that's why the Saudis, the Jordanians, the Americans all have to help the Palestinian Authority establish that authority in Gaza. And to your point, Ramesh, will they have credibility going in? No, because right now they look like they work with the occupiers in the West Bank. But if they were able to deliver a Palestinian state, then they would have the credibility to be able to do the deal.
Palestinians have the right to live in dignity, in peace, with medical care, with health care.
As do Israelis, of course.
Of course they do.
So
every human being should have that right?
Yes,
that's what we should protect. At all costs, not the killing of people.
Ben, it's not a question. I'm just saying one last thing. Okay, look, Ben. Do not misinterpret all the yelling back. I'm irate over the deaths of those Palestinians and how they have greatly suffered. I was irate over October 7th, and now I'm irate over this. And yes, this is 20 times the numbers, etc. But Ben, we are not, the number one reason I'm angry at Israel is not just because they're brutalizing the Palestinians, but because they are going further away from peace and security. Because this is going to just lead to more war and more anger and more terrorism and more violence. It's never going to stop until you make a deal. And if you say, hey, they blew it in the past and we've had that debate, I got you. Today's a new day. Go to the Palestinian Authority now.
Hamas has no power or even any respect, as Ramesh said. So the problem there being, you can't make a peace deal with people who aren't in power. You need to remove Hamas from power.
We never said power.
But Palestinian Authority has no respect or even any standing in the polls.
Now you're being
It's true.
It could be any.
You don't want to deal there.
No, I do. But the only way this works is you remove the Netanyahu government with elections and you remove Hamas. You must do both. You must do both. That's why the European Union agrees with that.
Okay, yes. You guys decide what you think is realistic. We'll be right back. Thanks for watching the video, guys. We also love it if you hit the join button below because that makes you a member, and members allow us to be independent, honest. We can be as progressive as we want, no corporate media influence, and that's all because of you guys. We love doing the show with our members. Hit the join button, become one of the Young Turks.